Hi, this is the video lesson for today's Writing 1 class. So we're going to talk about commas. Commas are the source of lots of questions on the GED and the HiSET. So the better we understand them, the better we're going to do on the test. So I think of commas as coming in two sort of types. The first type has to do with the structure of the sentence. So if we know about the different structures, different ways we can build a sentence, that will help us understand one big source of comma rules. The other commas I think of as like mechanical sorts of commas, little commas that go various places, like the commas in dates or the commas in addresses. All right, so we're going to talk about the first kind today, the kind that have to do with the structure of a sentence. So let's remember that we have 4 different ways to structure a sentence in English. One is a simple sentence. It just has one main clause. A compound sentence has more than one main clause, joined by coordinating conjunctions. Fanboys, we call those at our center. And the third kind is a complex sentence, which is a combination of a subordinate clause and a main clause, either the subordinate clause first, the main clause second, or the main clause first, the subordinate clause second. And the fourth kind is a combination of compound and complex. So if we remember, if we understand the commas in these 4 different sentence structures, then that's a big source of comma rules on tests. So take a look at your handout. The first one that we're going to talk about is the comma that goes in a compound sentence. So remember, in a compound sentence, it looks like this: a main clause, 2 or more main clauses joined together with coordinating conjunctions. Remember, that's what we use the memory trick fanboys: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so, to remember the 7 coordinating conjunctions in English. So we have, in our first example, Samuel went to the store and he bought some bread. So Samuel went to the store is a main clause. It's a group of words with a subject and a predicate. The subject is Samuel, the predicate is went, and Samuel went to the store then is a group of words with a subject and a predicate, and it's a main clause because it can be a sentence all by itself. Then we have another main clause: he bought some bread. He is the subject, bought is the predicate. He bought some bread. That can be a sentence all by itself. So we have a main clause. So we have 2 main clauses joined together by the coordinating conjunction and. And on your handout, you can just make the parentheses around the and into a little oval. I didn't know how to do that when I made this handout. So look, we have a main clause and a main clause joined together by a coordinating conjunction. That's this: main clause, joined together by a coordinating conjunction. When we do that, we always put a comma there. Okay, that's one major comma rule. All right, the next kind of comma is, the rule here says use a comma after an introductory subordinate clause. Just ignore that. This comma rule has to do with a complex sentence. So remember, a complex sentence is a subordinate clause followed by a main clause. If it goes in that order, there's a comma there. Or it's a main clause followed by a subordinate clause. If it goes in that order, there's no comma there. So look at our first example here. When Samuel went to the store, there's a group of words with a subject and a predicate. The subject is Samuel, the predicate is went. When Samuel went to the store, what? It's not a complete sentence. It's not finished. So it's not a main clause. It's a subordinate clause. And we show that in our class by putting brackets around it, right? And then we have a main clause: he bought bread. We saw in the last example that that was a main clause. So we end up with, when Samuel went to the store, he bought bread. And we have to put a comma there That's like this. When Samuel went to the store, comma, he bought bread. Okay? However, if it's the other way around, we don't put a comma there. So the example says, Samuel bought bread. Look at number 3 on your worksheet. Samuel bought bread. That's a main clause. Samuel's the subject. Bought is the predicate. Samuel bought bread is a main clause because it can be a sentence all by itself. Then, when he went to the store, group of words with a subject and predicate. He is the subject. Went is the predicate. When he went to the store, what? It's not finished, so it's a main clause. So we end up with the other way around. Samuel bought bread, that's a main clause, when he went to the store. So if the main clause comes before the subordinate clause, we don't put a comma there. No comma. Okay? All right. Let's see. Let's skip over number 4 for just a moment and look at number 5. We've talked about parallel structure before in class. Parallel structure is when we have things in a list. Items in a series is the way grammar teachers say it, but it's just things in a list. And there is a comma rule when we have things in a list in a sentence. So she bought bread, milk, and cat food. We have a list. Bread, milk, cat food. When we have things in a list in a sentence like that, we have to put a comma after each one. So she bought bread. She bought bread. She bought bread. Where are we? I can't see it. She bought bread, comma, milk, comma, and cat food. A comma after each one. That's like this. Bread. She bought bread, milk, and cat food. Now, this is the comma here, the one before the and, that we will often see on tests. And we're going to talk a little bit in the next video about that comma, why it's so important, and then we'll try some examples. Okay? All right.